This is a bold, powerful, and transformative new moon on July 24th at 3:11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. It's at 2 degrees of Leo, and this moon wants us to be our authentic self. We get to ask ourselves, what does it mean to be authentic? This new moon promises the potential for illumination and transformation, where we gain new insights and creative ideas that allow us to express our true potentials aligned in our passionate desires. Now, this new moon is opposing Pluto, and Pluto is about transformation and it's about our passions and our desires. So, although this is an opposition that makes it a little bit more challenging, it still also gives us the potential to find the balance between our authentic power and what is our passionate desires. We can use this new window of time to search our hearts and to know what feels true to who we are. So when we have a new moon, we are starting a new phase as the moon passes over the sun. And since the sun is in Leo, the sign it rules is especially powerful. And we now have the opportunity to make a huge and powerful transformative shift in our lives. The moon is our perception of reality. And each new moon meets the sun in the sky every 29 and a half days. At this point, the moon passes over the sun's powerful and radiant beams while it is spotlighting the sign that it is traveling through. So the new moon brings in the new filters of that energetic archetype based on the sign and the aspects it's making in the sky during this period of time. So while the sun is in Leo, it is on its throne for 30 days and therefore in rulership in its kingdom in the sky. It will have a powerful influence on us, especially at such an early degree, 2 degrees of Leo. This means something new, new beginnings, new innovations, new illuminations. The sun in Leo loves to shine. It radiates its light and life force through each of us. And since we are the sun, meaning that we are conscious beings of light, this new moon is especially important for all of us. With this new moon, if we turn inwards, we might get new insights to germinate new positive seeds that hold a new and brighter vision for our future. So allow me to introduce myself. Welcome to Starwell Astrology. My name is Shari, and I am a Western tropical astrologer with a special interest in shadow work. If you like this video, please don't forget to subscribe if you have not already, or hit the like button. That does help my channel to grow. Also, I do offer natal chart readings as well as one-on-one shadow work. Every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, I am offering a free shadow work workshop for those who want to dive deeper into their own self-inquiry and gain a deeper knowledge of themselves. So if you are interested, just send me an email to starwellastro@gmail.com and I'll tell you how to join. So now I'll put up the new moon chart so that we can have a look at it. I like to point out the planets as I go along for those who are interested in learning more about astrology. I think this is helpful. To begin, we can see that the sun and moon is at 2 degrees of Leo, opposing Pluto here at 2 degrees of Aquarius. And as I said, this sun wants us to become more authentic and to express our creative passions. Also, Leo is about our individuality and our insights, our passions, and our creative expressions. Now, also, Pluto in Aquarius wants to transform us at an authentic level. And this is why I especially mentioned authenticity, because Pluto is about transformation. Aquarius is about authenticity. And so is Sun and Leo. They're authentic. Pluto in Aquarius is about resonance. So we need to find what resonates within us on a deeper level. And this new moon is asking us to really investigate so that we can transform ourselves at a much deeper level. And although this can be challenging, power struggles can happen when Pluto opposes the luminary bodies, especially the sun. But with the moon there also, it makes it extra challenging because of the power struggles between both if we're not able to find the balance. And the balance is to find our own individuality, who we are as a unique individual that is authentic to who we are. And we can do this by really exploring ourselves at a much deeper level and also trusting what we feel guided to. Now, this new moon is in the configuration of a cradle. As you can see, Pluto is sextiling Neptune and Saturn and Neptune are trining the new moon. And that means Saturn and Neptune are very supportive of this opposition. Also, Uranus is in the game. Uranus is also doing a sextile and a trine to this new moon opposition. But of course, this means it's more supportive. However, the one thing we have to consider is that Pluto is retrograde, therefore not in its full strength, and so is Saturn and Neptune. They're in retrograde. So how does this work when planets are in retrograde? And these are the outer planets. When planets are retrograde, they slow down and therefore they're more introspective, turn inwards and understand the messages that they're conveying. And of course, Pluto's message is always about transformation. Pluto's message on its deepest level is about self-investigating, really understanding our shadow side, finding the parts of us that are unconscious and allowing this to surface so that we can do some work to understand who we are more authentically. Now, Neptune and Saturn in Aries is at an early degree of Aries, which is trying to bring us a new beginning. But this new beginning is also now slowed down because Neptune, which is our unconscious, but also our creativity, it is also the part of us that has access to a pool of potentials and gifts and talents that we might not necessarily be aware of. It is the part of us that allows us to dream. It's our spiritual connection to the other side, the invisible side. And Saturn, which is also now retrograde, crystallizes whatever it touches. It wants to materialize it in some way. However, now that it's retrograde, it wants us to really shape our dreams, really be sure about what it is that we want to bring, what insights, what creative information are we receiving, what dreams do we want to dream up, or what spiritual connections we want to have. If we feel that we're stirred towards something more spiritual, Saturn wants us to understand what it is that we are really talking about. What do we really believe? What do we want to know about ourselves? And to make this more authentic to who we are. We also have the support now of Uranus, who is the only outer planet that's still direct because Pluto is retrograde, Neptune is retrograde, and Uranus is another outer planet, and it's direct. And it's at the early degrees of Gemini. So what does it say? In the early degrees of Gemini, it really is trying to bring us some kind of new inspiration, new breakthrough, new innovative ideas. Also, it might be sudden and unexpected, and we might feel the urge to act without really understanding what this is coming from, because Uranus really is quite an urge that a lot of times we can't resist. And even if we don't understand what we're doing, we just feel the desire to take action, to do something. It really is connected to our nervous system. So when we're not aware that this is really triggering us, then we can act impulsively. However, the highest message of Uranus is also authenticity. Whatever is not authentic to you, it will shake up. It will try to get you to let it go. And if you don't want to let it go, it's still going to make you let it go, but it will be very disruptive. So this is why it's so important that we try to understand what it is that's authentic to who we are, because that's the only thing that will stay. If it's not authentic, it's going to get taken away and not in a comfortable way. So it's important that we really start to understand this and do this by turning inwards and try to get to know thyself more deeply. Now, in Gemini, we see that Venus is also there. Venus is playing an important role in this new moon cycle because Venus is at the apex of this T square configuration. It's actually at the bending of the nodes. Venus is squaring the nodes, and it's especially working with the North Node. But it's also in the sign of Gemini, where Uranus is. A few weeks ago, Venus crossed over Uranus just before the full moon. So now that it has passed over Uranus, whatever may have happened, there could have been something regarding what you love, a choice that you need to make, something around money, possibly, the things that you enjoy, the pleasures that you want in life. Uranus is telling us to make the authentic choice. Choose what brings you joy. That's the new moon in Leo. Leo is joy, but also tap into what you really love and make sure that it's something that inspires you and brings you love. The reason I'm saying that is because it is squaring the North Node that wants to give you something. And the North Node is in Pisces, the sign that Neptune rules. And Neptune is with Saturn, and it's repeating what I just said before, Neptune and Saturn. Neptune wants to give you the dream. It's the unconscious. It is also your gifts and talents that may be hidden. And Saturn is there to help you to bring it into fruition. And the North Node wants to give this to you. Now, the other thing to mention too is that in the chart, it's all masculine energy and all active fire and air energy that really is the catalyst for something new to begin, something that we want to have that might be exciting and pleasurable in our lives can come through with this new moon. But since these planets are retrograde, we might not necessarily receive it yet, but we're still in the early stages with Aries, that combination with Neptune and Saturn at 1 degree and Uranus at 0 degrees, and this new moon at 2 degrees, as well as Pluto at 2 degrees. These are all early energies in fire and air. And 2 of the 3 outer planets are retrograde. We still need to plant these seeds at this time or just become more aware of what it is that we are ready to bring forward as an individual person with your own unique expression that feels authentic to who you are. And Venus in Gemini loves to have choices. It likes to be intellectually challenged because it's very curious and it likes mental stimulation. It loves variety and changes. And this is very supportive of what Uranus is doing also in Gemini, because Uranus in Gemini also likes excitement and it likes a lot of mental energy. As a matter of fact, it might be a lot. The other thing to mention too is that Gemini, most will say it's the lower mind, but it's really both the lower and the higher mind, meaning the left and the right hemisphere, because Gemini is a sign of the two, like both hands, the lungs, right and left lung. So also it is the right and left brain, and it's the sign of duality. So it's not just the lower mind, it's also the higher mind. But the reason we call it the lower mind is that Gemini tends to get attached to the details and data, to information, to the intellect, the things that we can learn. And this comes from the lower mind. So the lower mind tends to be stronger with the Gemini side. However, it does relate to the higher mind also, which is the right brain, which is the silent mind, the part of us that is more creative and emotional and intuitive. But there's an imbalance with this energy because the left brain is far more dominant. But Uranus actually is considered the higher octave of Mercury, which is the ruler of Gemini. So with Uranus here, it can begin to awaken our higher mind and allow us to get access to the part of us that is not as developed if we are not using it. So it brings us into more balance between the left and the right brain. There's like the middle path. And actually, that's why Uranus is considered the awakener, because when you balance the right and the left brain, you're centered in stillness, which is where the third eye is. And this is why we can awaken with Uranus, especially in Gemini. So this is the highest potential of what Uranus can bring to us with this new moon. The other thing to mention is that Mercury is retrograde in Leo. It's not conjunct the new moon, but it's in the same sign. So it is working with the Leo energy because at some point the moon is going to cross over Mercury and eventually the sun will at 9 degrees later this month. But I'll give you the dates that Mercury is going to be in its shadow and retrograde. Mercury is in its shadow on June 30th at 4 degrees Leo, close to where this new moon is happening. And then it's going to go retrograde on July 18th at 15 degrees. Then it's going to retrograde all the way back to 4 degrees in Leo and then go direct on August 11th. When it goes direct, it won't get back to 15 degrees of Leo until the 28th of August. So pretty much from the 30th of June to the 28th of August, we're in retrograde and shadow zone of Mercury. And this is especially important because Uranus is now newly in Gemini. And so Mercury is the ruler of Gemini. And it's showing us that we're really rethinking, re-examining, maybe renovating, re-editing to find what resonates with us on an authentic level. And in Leo, Leo really wants us to do this in a very inspired way that illuminates our heart. And Leo rules the heart, and the heart's desire is our highest desire. So we're checking in to see what's authentic to us at a heart level and allowing that to be expressed in some way that we feel passionate about. And in this way, Uranus can give us our breakthroughs. Now back to Venus. Venus is working also with Uranus in Gemini, but Venus now is at the apex of this T-square, which usually Venus also can be crossroads because especially in Gemini where we have to make a choice. So we're at a point where we need to make some choice to either do what feels authentic and true to us or keep going the way we have. And then Uranus is going to shake us up anyway and cause disruption in that area. So it's very important that we really pay attention to this. Now, I want to talk about the other sign that Mercury rules, and that is Virgo, and Mars is there. And Mars likes to carry out the desires of Venus. So Venus, as I said, is at a crossroads, needs to make choices, choices that are authentic, because she just crossed over Uranus. And at that point, we may have received or learned something new that we need to act on, or at least think about, or consider, or make a choice about. And now that it's at that crossroads where it's now squaring the nodes. The north node wants to give us something, but the south node needs us to release and let go in some area of life. And it is with Mars that is also carrying out the desires of Venus. So Mars wants to act on Venus's desires at this crossroad. What choice is Venus going to make during this time? But it needs to be authentic. And although Mars can be very impulsive and reactive with the South Node, it actually is being more strategic and it's being more efficient in the action that it's willing to carry out the minute that Venus decides what it is that she really wants. As long as it's authentic, Mars can do the severing of whatever is not needed at this time in order for Venus to have her wishes and for this new moon to be fulfilled in a way that allows us to discover, recognize, illuminate our authentic self. So that's what I have for you today. So thank you for joining me. I hope that this resonated with you in some way. I also want to remind you that I do offer natal chart readings and one-on-one shadow work. My information is below. If you're curious about shadow work and you've heard about it or you tried to practice, but you're not sure what the practice is, or maybe you're not following through, I do offer a free shadow work workshop every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you are interested in joining me, just send an email to starwellastro@gmail.com. The information is below. Thank you for joining me, and goodbye.